maybe you noticed this is a hard class. Holy smokes, we're doing some cool stuff though. I'm talking about exercise 5, pardon me. Still recovering, not 100% there yet. Talking about exercise 5 and how you take a piece of type and play with it to create a really interesting visual effect and kind of a cool logo way to play with it. So we're going to take type, convert it into outlines, and play with it with lots of cool tricks. I'll show you what I'm talking about. First thing we're going to do, let me share my screen. We'll pop first thing into Google Chrome and say, there we are. There's our class. Start with the page that's 8 by 8, at least 5 letters. Set in a font that's appropriate for the meaning. We talked about voices in typography. Set the text on a path or use envelope distort to put the text in a shape, warp, mesh, or top object. Let's do that. Convert to outlines. You may need to expand that object. And then we're going to use the appearance menu to add a fill and at least 3 strokes. Use the effect 3D rotate menu. This is starting to get complicated. Let me show you how to do all this stuff. So we're going to pop back into Illustrator. I've got an 8 by 8 and I've got my word with at least 5 letters on it set in Cooper Black. I love Cooper Black. It's a great typeface. Let's take a look at a couple of things. If I wanted to set this text on a path, I could click with my curvy tool, set up a nice big curve like that. And what I want to do is put this text on that path. So if I go back over here and get my text tool and just click anywhere in here, I'll get those letters, Command X to cut them. And then notice what happens when I roll over this path. It says you got the text tool selected and you're sitting on top of a path. You must want to do text on a path. And I do. Pardon me, I'm really having a hard time here. So I click there and just say paste. And there's my ballo. Well, ballow's not my word. Baloney's my word. I want the rest of it. So if I grab my selection tool here and just click on that, you'll see I get these little spikes kind of floating around in here. This says, I'm so sorry. This says there's more type on here than will fit. I know that because ballow's not my word. This one says this is where we're starting the word. And I go, well, don't do that. Grab that end and pull it down here and say, I want the whole word to show up. Now I got my whole word. So that's pretty cool. That's text on a path. Fairly easy. You can put text on a circle, curve. You can wrap it around a square. You can do all kinds of things to it. So that's a great trick. It's a little bit fussy and there's a lot of stuff to it. We will have done this in class a bit. So that's one way to do it. I'm just undoing those guys and I'm coming back to this. Now I want to treat this as envelope distort. So if I grab that, I don't have my text tool now. If you have your text tool, it thinks that you must want to type or change the typeface or the size or something. I just want to treat this like an object. And if I go to the object menu and say, I have an object selected, I want to envelope distort. And it says, no, you may not do that. I've got this selected. Great. You come with me, object, envelope distort. There we go. Make with warp means it's got a bunch of preset shapes that it will let you put that word into, like a fish or an arc or a bulge or a shell or a flag or a fisheye. So experiment with those. They're kind of fun. You can do some cool things like that with it. So that's text envelope distort using warp. I'm not recommending, I'm not disrecommending. I'm just saying it's an option. Experiment. Make with mesh gives you a grid. Maybe we'll make that a 2 by 2 grid just so we have fewer points. And say, okay, now I've got dink, 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 dink. I've got points on this thing that I can then grab and mess with. Like this, if I said, give me that point right there and go, baloney, whoa, that drippy baloney. So you can play with this kind of stuff. And then the third one is top object. If I put a big old ball on top of this thing and say I want my baloney to fit inside there, Command A, select all. I've got 2 objects now, circle and the type. And then I go to object, envelope distort. I go to, object, envelope distort, make with top object. Oh, for crying out loud. Select all, object, envelope distort, make with top object. Thank you. So now I've got my baloney fitting in there as well. You can see how that's going to work. Okay, so What I got to do though, by the way, if I'm here and I want to then go to the next step and add some things to it, what I've got to do is convert this to outlines. I've got to blow this up and make it paths instead of a piece of type inside of a treatment. Because as far as Illustrator is concerned, right now, that's just a trick. It's just a little ball with something stuffed inside of it. So let's blow that up. Object expand, and it will say, oh, you want to turn that into something that you can play with, and I do. So that's how that will play. If I did the same thing to something like my envelope mesh, then I would be able to change that as well. Object, envelope distort. I don't have this thing selected. My fault. Wrong tool. Whoops. Illustrator, it's a trick. Make with warp, sure, and we'll go with fish. Okay. So what I'm going to do is go to object, expand, object, and fill, and now what I've got are paths. Okay, so now what I want to do, you may find yourself saying, why do you have the appearance menu open over here? Because we're going to do tricks inside there. Appearance menu here lets you control the way that you do strokes and fills on a piece of type like this. Now, you'll see this wrong in the marketplace fairly regularly, where somebody will say, I want to put text, I want to put a big stroke around the outside of my text. So let's add a stroke to that. We're going to add a new stroke right here in the appearance menu, and we'll make it orange, and we'll say it's going to be 16 points wide. Pow! So you see what happens is people do this all the time. They just kind of grab something and put a stroke around the outside of it. And you see what ruins the type. It ruins the type. It's awful. Let's give this a fill of white. So there we go. We got white fill, orange stroke, 16 points. Now, I just want to show you this cool trick. Grab that stroke and pull it underneath the fill. Isn't that sweet? So now you got a really nice piece of custom type that feels really wonderful. It feels like it's got this kind of glowing quality to it. All right, so I can add another stroke and say that one's going to be pink, and it's going to be 20 points. Whoop, 20 points. And then I grab that one, and I also pull that down underneath my pink, my yellow stroke, my orange stroke rather. Oops, did I forget to select this thing? There we go. Add new stroke. Don't you hate when you have to watch your teacher do the same damn thing again? I already know how to do this. Grab that, change the color, and then pull that stroke, that new one that we just made, underneath your 16 point, and you're starting to see the psychedelic, crazy fun that you can have. So that's how you do the stroke and fill in here. Add your appearance menu to fill and at least 3 strokes. Use the effect 3D rotate menu to change the angle and perspective. Holy cow, what does that look like? All right, it's gonna get crazy. Here you go. I've got my piece of type here. Make sure I got it selected. Not just that one, I want the whole darn thing. Doink, there we go. And now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna zoom in on this a little bit and you can show you what I'm talking about. Effect 3D rotate. And in here, it'll say, well, you're going to change the way that this looks on a plane. And I'm going to spin it a little bit. So play with your axes a little bit, and you can see how that will flip and rotate. Isn't that cool? And if I change my perspective quite a bit and make it really strict, like big like that, you'll see how you can make it look like this is coming right at you. So experiment a bit with how that works. Whoa! And get to the point where you got kind of a pretty cool piece of type. And when you're happy, say coolio, save that file and drop it into the exercise 5 Dropbox, and you are gold. I hope that was fun. I hope you had a kick out of that. I had kind of a kick out of that. See ya.